All right, welcome to The Explainer. We're going to jump right into a really big question today, one that gets to the very heart of American rights. Do they come from God? And maybe more importantly, can you really, truly defend those rights if you don't believe they do? Let's dig in.
So let's just take a second to really let this sink in. Anyone who rejects the very premise cannot simultaneously claim to defend those rights. Wow. This is a really provocative claim, right? It's at the core of a huge debate about what it even means to be American. The question it forces us to ask is it even possible to stand up for the country's founding ideas if you don't buy into where they said those ideas came from?
Okay, so to really get our heads around this, we're going to break it down into 4 parts. First, what exactly is the Declaration's divine premise? Then, we'll look at the big question, can rights even exist without God? After that, we'll get into a really key distinction between personal and civic integrity. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with what's called the coherence conundrum. Let's go.
All right, first up, the Declaration's divine premise. We've got to go back to the source code, so to speak.
Okay, here it is, the line everyone knows. We hold these truths to be self-evident, endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. I mean, the language couldn't be clearer, right? It's not just hinting at it, it's explicitly anchoring these unalienable rights to a creator. This wasn't some throwaway line, folks. This was the foundation, the bedrock of the entire argument they were building.
And you have to understand, at the time, this was an absolutely radical, game-changing move. Think about it. By saying rights come from God, from natural law, as thinkers like John Locke argued, they are putting those rights completely beyond the reach of any king or any government. The logic was simple but powerful. If a king didn't give you your rights, then a king sure as heck couldn't take them away. They were trying to make them permanent, untouchable.
So, that naturally leads us to the next big question, the secular challenge. Can rights exist without God?
Well, this is where things get interesting, because modern philosophy has come up with a bunch of other ways to justify human rights, no religion required. You've got thinkers like Immanuel Kant, who said our rights come from our ability to reason. Then there's the whole social contract idea. Basically, we all rationally agree to respect each other's rights so we can live together without chaos. Or you can just be pragmatic about it and say, hey, societies that protect individual rights just work better. They're more stable, more prosperous. The point is, there are other paths to the same destination.
So what this all suggests is that you can totally agree with the conclusion that liberty is awesome and essential without having to accept the premise about where that liberty comes from. It's kind of like you can use an iPhone without believing everything Steve Jobs ever said, right? You can separate the product from the philosophy of its creator. You can champion the ideals of the Declaration without signing on to its specific 18th century theology. Okay, but this is where the argument we're examining takes a really sharp turn. It pivots away from this big philosophical debate and zooms in on something much more specific, the idea of integrity. And not just any integrity, as we're about to see.
And this distinction is absolutely crucial to the whole argument. We have to separate personal integrity from civic integrity. Personal integrity is about you. Are you an honest, sincere person? Do your actions match your beliefs? The atheist firefighter who saves a life out of pure human empathy, that's personal integrity. But civic integrity is different. It's about being aligned with the foundational principles of a system you're a part of. So the firefighter who saves a life because they believe life is sacred, because it was created, that person, according to this argument, is showing civic integrity. Within the American framework, it's not about being a better person, it's about being consistent with the system's own source code.
And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, the coherence conundrum. This is where that idea of civic integrity really gets put to the test.
Yeah, a civic oxymoron. It's a great phrase. The argument here is that you end up in a state of contradiction. Not a moral contradiction, but a contradiction in your civic identity. It's the idea that you're claiming to uphold a system, while at the same time you're rejecting its most basic foundational belief. It's a claim about logical consistency.
And here's how that logic breaks down. 1. The American system explicitly says rights are endowed by a creator. 2. If you take the creator out of the equation, then rights aren't endowed. They must be constructed by people. 3. And here's the kicker. Anything that humans construct, humans can deconstruct. It can be changed, it can be revoked. So the argument concludes that by rejecting the creator premise, you're not just disagreeing with a historical detail. You are fundamentally changing what an unalienable right is. You're turning something absolute into something conditional.
Think about it this way with some of these analogies. They're not about judging anyone's character. They're about, well, coherence.
Could a committed Marxist sincerely go out and defend free market capitalism? Could a lifelong pacifist with full integrity lead an army into battle? Or a vegan passionately defend the ethics of cattle ranching? The argument is that it creates a structural contradiction. You're trying to represent a system whose basic fundamental rules you just don't accept.
And this quote really brings it all home. I am not saying atheists or agnostics are immoral or insincere as people. I am saying that within the American framework, their civic identity is in contradiction with the founding premise. See, it's making it crystal clear. This isn't an attack on anyone's personal morality. It's a very specific, very narrow critique about logical consistency within the American system itself.
So when you boil it all down, this is the tension we're left with. You have the Declaration, written with explicitly religious or theistic language, and then you have our modern world, where so much of our political thought is secular. It's like two different operating systems. The question is, how do you make them compatible?
And that leaves us with this final, really challenging question. What does it actually mean to uphold the principles of a nation? Do you have to buy into the entire philosophical package that came with it 250 years ago? Or can you embrace the incredible outcomes, liberty, equality, while updating the reasons why we believe in them? Can you represent a system while rejecting its core premise? That's a question we're thinking about.